Hello everyone, my name's Eddie Brill. I'm the host of OG Talk, OG for the Organic Grill, the place we're in right now, the place where the passionate and compassionate meet. I'm here with my co-host Vlad Grinberg, who's the proprietor of this wonderful place, and we're very excited about our guest today. He's the Brooklyn Borough president. I'm originally from Brooklyn. You can't really tell from my accent. The wonderful Eric Adams. Eric, thank you so much for dropping in today.
Thank you very much.
Well, I grew up, OG had a significant meaning.
Yes.
Original gangster. That's
Yes.
like old school, you know.
Well, you know, it sort of works
My
that
wife
way.
thinks it's Olga Greenberg, so.
Yeah, I go for orange Gatorade. That's what. Actually, I wouldn't drink orange Gatorade. It's a vegan restaurant. I've become a vegan. I know you have as well. How long have you eaten plant-based food?
For about a little over 3 years now. I was so used to saying 3 years that even when it got to over 3 years, I was still saying 3 years, you know. So about over 3 years now.
That's
Amazing
very
journey.
OG of you to do that, to keep that. You know, one of the things, I'm not sure, in 1984, you became a police officer. You were number one in your class, which was pretty nice. And your beat was the Greenwich Village area. In 1984, I started a comedy club called the Paper Moon on West
I know
3rd
where
Street
it is.
between Thompson and Sullivan.
Wow.
And it went on for 4 years, became the Boston Comedy Club eventually. But it was kind of funny when I did some research and noticed that we were hanging out in the same neighborhood back then. And that was a different time around in the village. You know, the 70s was pretty dangerous around here. And what was it like in the 80s running the beat there?
Same. I started my career in the transit police, and I used to ride from Coney Island Avenue all the way to West 4th Street. And it was a different place. Many people don't know that. I tell people all the time when they walk in Winsburg or Greenpoint, this wasn't the city before. You know, Bushwick, all the buildings were burnt out. We all had no radio signs in our cars. And
Right.
in a club, I tell people the club was not a prestigious group. It was what you put over your steering wheel,
Right.
you know, to prevent people from stealing your car. It was just a different place. And New York is, no matter what, under and in the crevices of all of that crime and blight, you just had some good people that really, they got up every day, no matter how afraid they were, they went and they made sure that the city continued to move. They drove cabs, they taught in schools, they put out fires. We just had good New Yorkers that really made the city what it is.
Were you surprised by that back then? You know, being someone who, you know, your training is about, you know, community service. So I'm sure there was some kind of heart and soul in there. But then you went on the street and you see that there's, you know, it's a dichotomy of that.
So true. And that's a great question because two things come to mind. It's amazing to me how we have this amazing ability to adapt. We got so used to the graffiti everywhere on our trains, on the buildings, sometime on your cars, you know, that we just adjusted and we no longer saw it. If someone came to visit us from out of town, they were like, damn, what is all this crap? It was like, what crap? You know,
It's artwork.
Right,
It's really
right.
incredible artwork.
Right. And then when I started patrol, and I would always talk to people while I was on patrol, and hearing the stories, you know, talking about college tuition, son just graduated or what have you, it was the same stories. We're all the same people, and we all want the same things. And I stopped defining the city by that knucklehead who I arrested for a robbery or that person who did a burglary. They were the numerical minority. The overwhelming majority, no matter how challenging it was, they just wanted to provide for their family. And I stopped looking at the city through the prism of those I put in prison.
Right, very nice. Nice wordplay, by the way.
I started looking at it through the eyes of these great people.
So it's interesting that you say it because we usually almost like have it as an excuse, or we strip and search because majority is a problem, right?
Right.
We identify by color because this is the problem that we are trying to prevent you from, right?
Yes,
You are saying completely different. It's so interesting that you mentioned it.
And still today, you see it today. You know, when I look at back then and I look at now, you know, being a borough president gives me the opportunity to move around different communities. In Brooklyn, 47% of the people in Brooklyn speak a language other than English at home. And it's just amazing.
Almost
Right. And really, it's probably half. When they were knocking on the door to take the census, they probably thought it was the bill collector or immigration, so they didn't open the door.
No outblow bill collector. What's interesting to me is that you were a state senator and then you become a borough president. Now, in my ignorance, it seems like state senator seems like this incredible lofty name, like, you know, because there's only 50 senators in, or, you know, for each state, or 100 senators. Shows you my knowledge of politics. Now, borough president, what's the job of a borough president, and why do you, you know, aspire to that from Senate?
That's a great question. I lived always through this view of your office you hold is not as high as the office TV tells us you hold. Like when I was a captain, people say, well, you know, do the detectives supervise you? Detectives are the same rank as a police officer, but since the detectives were
Perception,
the right. And same with state senate. We have federal and state senators. The federal senators are the Chuck Schumers of the universe. They are in Washington, D.C. They make laws that govern the entire country.
Gotcha.
The state senators are in the state only, and their powers are they make the laws just in the state.
Which is as important because each community is different. Each community in each state is different. We're different here in New York City than they are in Albany, or they are in Putnam, or, you know.
Right. So in the state, I represented roughly 350,000 people, if I remember that number correct. And as the borough president, I'm representing 2.6 million people. I have 4 state senators inside my borough. So I am the borough president of that entire borough. And it's very significant because Brooklyn, if it was a separate city, which it was up into the late 1800s, it was a separate city. If Brooklyn was a separate city, it would be the 3rd largest city in America.
Wow.
That's how large Brooklyn is. And we really have an impact on how this city operates. And in return, this city has an impact on how this country operates. So at the heart of it is Brooklyn.
So how different are the different boroughs? You know?
Very much so. Manhattan, and each borough is broken down into different pieces. Midtown Manhattan is different from Harlem, different from Washington Heights, and the same too is each borough is different in their connectivity. Brooklyn is different from Queens. Queens is another very diverse borough. Many people from South America, Latin America. You have Enclave.
Astoria is the
different.
community.
Exactly. Used to be. Changed a lot. You know.
It shows, again, I'm in the East Village the whole time, and it's completely a variety, you know, pack here. But it's different over there. Because to me, well, you know what's funny to me is that we're here in New York City, Manhattan, and they call this New York City. Right. Although Brooklyn's New York City, Queens is New York City. But you don't say, I'm going into the city and you're going to Brooklyn.
Right.
You know, then that'll, you know, when you get your mail, when I was a kid in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, it would be like Brooklyn, New York. You didn't write New York City, New York.
Right, so true. So, and that is one of those strange series of connections that we really can't explain. I remember that was one of the biggest issues I had when I was in school. I was like, well, aren't we in NYC? You have to figure out NYC, Brooklyn, New York, but Manhattan, New York. But it all comes together, you know. Now, where'd you get your Brooklyn accents from? Where are you from?
From Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ukraine part of Brooklyn.
Okay.
Well, you know, there's the Rasputins and all that stuff, and that part of, like, Coney Island. My aunt lived in Brighton Beach, and it was all Russian and Ukrainian neighborhood. And
Still
now the
is.
East Village. Yeah.
When we prepared for this interview today, not even interview, just a meeting, I went through the research, and I'm curious, like, who did you get your work ethic from? Like, you was the best student. You went to Brooklyn Tech. My daughter told me, you know what school Mr. Adams went to, and she was like, I went to the same school. And then you was one of the best in academy. You was the first borough president who is African American. Tell us, who do you think you got your work ethic from?
Mom is amazing. Mom was is, I should say, an amazing woman. And I think all of us, when we look, our relationships with our mother is probably the most impactfful.
Yeah,
And
it's
she
the
is
unconditional
amazing.
love
Right,
between a mother
right.
and a child. There's nothing, no other relationship like it in the world.
It's not. It's not. And mother, she had the amazing ability to show her love with all her 6 children. She loves them all. I tell everyone, but she adored me. I was a
course.
special child. You know.
We adore
Oh,
you,
boy.
and we're not even your mother.
You know, but it was mom. Mom labored hard. She was willing to do what needed to be done, and she just gave us this great example of never giving up. Always, reach for your dreams, and she never stopped doing, what needed to be done.
What about food in your house? Because, we have all changed the way we eat, and we'll talk about that as well. We're going to bring out some food in just about a minute, but what was the food like in your house growing up? It was very nurturing, meat, potatoes.
Yes.
And I heard you cooking most of your food yourself.
Yeah, now.
Now.
Before, my best meal was toast, and I burned that 70% of the time, but now.
If you were savvy, you could say that was my style of toast that I've created. But it was a house that probably, how many siblings, did you have siblings?
5,
Right,
including
same.
myself, is 6. Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, back then they didn't have HBO or Netflix.
Right, yeah, that's very true.
So the food was good. It was Southern diet. Mom and dad was from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's mixed African American and American Indian, and we had a Southern meal, heavy meat centered.
While you're talking about food, I'm going to start
bring up
bringing
the
the
Sounds
food.
like a plan. And so at the center of the table was meat. And in fact, we were defined in our community, if you didn't have meat at your meal, you were a poor household.
Right.
And
in Europe, in the Middle East, which we found out over doing research and all that
That's a
kind of stuff.
cauliflower pop.
Oh, that's my favorite. You find out that the meat wasn't the biggest part of the meal.
It wasn't.
It was always the smallest part of the meal. That's the
This is
vegetable.
our tofu omelet. You
Which is
probably
great
never
for
tried it.
breakfast.
And I heard
that
that
for
you're
you.
trying to stay oil-free. This is our Dragon Ball.
Love it.
Yeah.
Who's it now? Are you the chef?
I'm the chef, and my stepdaughter Julia is the one who cooks here.
Okay.
So it's a family affair.
Tell me, what do I have here?
So this is tofu omelet.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing.
You tried. It's completely different from what you ever tried. It's actually your plate.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
Alright.
you have that. I'm gonna take some of
This
the-
guy just wants to tear out.
Yeah, the
You-
food
you
is great.
probably,
And
share it
food
with
is again, it's that nurturing part about food, as we were talking about from your mom and from all that kind of stuff. So all of a sudden, like my family as well, your family gets illness because of food. Now you get type 2 diabetes, which is not the one that can be cured with food. Yet in our society, we want to cure it with pills.
Right, and that's fascinating because, as you started out to say, food is not only what's on the end of our fork or what we consume nutritionally, it is also how we define ourselves. There was whenever I used to have a terrible game in Little League, I would come home and my aunt used to have this amazing brownies that I would eat. And so I coupled relieving my anger or disappointment with that brownie. And
When the Jets would lose, I would go home. I would
Right,
eat
right.
6 or 7 brownies, and that was often.
And so when we start to disconnect people from bad eating habits, if we don't respect the connectivity between what they're eating and those habits, then we're really setting ourselves up for failure.
Absolutely. Nobody is going to follow because they
They're
don't
not.
feel emotionally connected.
Exactly.
And then it affects you because you get diabetes, and you're a young man, and you have diabetes, and now every doctor wants to give you pills and wants to, because you're taking a pill so that you can continue to eat the way you eat,
Right.
and sort of arrest or keep the diabetes at bay. Yet we found out, and you found out, that by using food as your medicine, as Hippocrates says, that you can now get rid of your diabetes completely. Did
Yeah, I
you do-
remember my
Yeah.
like childhood memories, such a vivid memories that every morning my father gets up and he gets his insulin shot. And at the time I was like always thinking that this is a savior, thanks God we have this insulin. And for most people it's probably a necessary tool, but I was now, then I had experience when my mom got sick. She was also having problem with diabetes, and she started plant-based,
Right.
and she cured it in a couple of months. And now I'm thinking, like, was it that necessary? In having your experience
Right,
that
right.
you took charge and completely reversed it, and
And how long did you use pills or medicine?
And that's so important because the medicine, as in everything in life, because there's a larger story here. You know, when I was told I was diabetic and I lost my sight in my left eye, and I was having what the doctor said was permanent nerve damage in my hands and feet. It was going to lead to amputation. I had an ulcer. I had high blood pressure. My PSA was high. That was an indicator of prostate cancer, which my dad just died from during that time. And cholesterol was high. Just everything was just out of whack. And if you would have looked at me, you would have said, well, hey, wait, this guy is in decent shape. Because I was always conscious about exercising and doing things that was healthy. But when I was forced to go because of the ulcer, I was feeling pain in my stomach that led to the diagnosis. When the doctor gave me medicine and said I was going to be on insulin, I never took the insulin, but he gave me metformin and some other drugs. I had medicine for my ulcer, medicine to slow down my vision loss, medicine for my cholesterol, medicine for my blood pressure, medicine for my diabetes, 3 medicines. I went into the doctor with no medicine. I walked
Right.
out with,
With a shopping bag.
right.
And each medicine reminds you of the sort of various ailments.
it's not
that you have.
not
Right.
only medicine. He kind of went home with a verdict, right? This is your life. This is what's gonna
That's
happen.
so important.
You're
Right.
going to follow, unfortunately, the route that your father followed. Okay, good luck with that, right?
Right. So it's not only the physical diagnosis, it's the mental diagnosis. Because now you're on the decline of what life has to offer.
Despite the fact that you were in the prime of your career, right?
Right, exactly. I was just starting out as my career as the borough president. I was looking one day to run to be the mayor of the city. All of that was going out the window. And thinking of prime of one's career, Ken Thompson was the first African American district attorney in Brooklyn. He died from colorectal cancer.
So here now, all these examples, your father, your colleagues, you're seeing them go. So all of a sudden the stress also adds.
It does. It attributes to, and so there was a complete change. So the medicine is supposed to normalize the crises because my A1C was high, my vision loss, all of those things. So medicine you're supposed to use medicine to normalize the crises. Then you move into lifestyle to
Change, yeah.
to have your normal life. We have it turned upside down.
So we just go.
Right, we have people on medicine for 20, 30 years destroying your kidney. People used to say, well, what are the side effects of the medicine? It's not a side effect, it's a direct effect.
That's what I always say. There's no side. It's effect.
It's a direct effect. It is a negative impact on your body, your body's healing mechanism. Just as we have a circulatory system, a respiratory system, a digestive system, we have a healing system. But you have to feed that healing system to allow it to do what it ought to do and supposed to do.
All right. So how did all of a sudden that change? What led you to the plant-based diet that helped you to get your vision back, to get your life back, and to give you be a star charger again?
Thank you very much. What I always say, I did something scientific. I went to Google and Googled reversing diabetes.
Very nice.
Right. And
So the information is there. right?
it's unbelievable the information is there. Just as your podcast. We just have to, it's amazing. Quantum physics says things come into existence when you acknowledge their presence. And so I probably Googled several times, and because I did not acknowledge the existence of the information, I just looked right past it. And so once I zeroed in on the existence of there's ways to heal thyself, the information just came. You know, it was the Dr. Esseltyn's, the Dr. Greger, the Dr. Bonner. And by reading the information, I was like, wow, what is this? I was so blown away about the full scope of how one can heal thyself.
Right, and with spirituality too,
Yes, yes.
which is really important. It's important.
People are quoting you now. I heard many times, like when people say it's not your genes, it's your diet, right?
Right.
It's very true. Now I know that you've taken care of yourself. Oh, it's ridiculously good.
Wow.
And now you're helping other people by the no baloney program. I'm sure it's not called that, but
Meatless
getting rid of
Mondays.
Meatless Mondays at Rachel.
Bellevue Hospital.
Atcheson.
The list goes on and on and on.
Right. We're so excited. Oftentimes, even my reflexes are better.
Yeah, I just noticed
I
that.
could even play for the Jets.
Yeah, we can use the
this-
defensive back.
Probably better results.
But yeah, because first of all, this is out there, but people are. It's not that they're lazy; it's that they've been programmed
Good question.
in a
It's interesting.
fear-based society to. We need this. What do they call the magic bullet, the silver bullet, something quick, the pill. Now you're going to say, look, there's a way to do this. How do you create this for your people?
So true. And it's not only the message, it's the messenger. And if I stood in front of a group of teenagers and talked about, hey, you could eat healthy, they would receive me differently if I was Jay-Z or Beyonce.
Right.
So we have to find the right messengers. And so when I go and stand in front of a group of cops and say, listen, all you guys are signed up for heart bills. It's built into policing that, hey, if you have a heart bill, you're going to have a heart attack. Stress, food, lifestyle. Instead of having that heart bill, how about changing your food? When Rick Esseltyn stands in front of a group of firefighters, they listen. When I speak to a group of people in church, they listen. When I get my pastors on board, my bishops, my imams, my rabbis. So it's about, as Malcolm Gladwell talks about, finding the tribal leaders. And if we're going to turn around this crisis, because our healthcare crisis is not sustainable. This is
Financially,
not sustainable.
mentally, on all.
Right. And we have to acknowledge the unsustainability of the crises that we're in, because we are in a crisis.
But we're also fighting against the financial aspect of how much money is made in the processed food business. The meat and the dairy industry. For my parents, that was this was the meat and the dairy industry were in charge of creating the. What do you call it? The triangle of the pyramid, the food pyramid.
Turning into a plate now.
Right. And so now we're up against that, and it's understandable. People are making a lot of money. They're not going to go, okay, instead of saying, hey, maybe we can make more money changing things, we have to fight against that.
So true.
Without hurting people's lives.
The greatest level of betrayal in this country is what our federal and state government officials are doing. They've succumbed to lobbyists. They've succumbed to the financial interests of others and putting the health of their constituency at risk. And this even the health of their own family members.
Wow, this is so revolutionary what you just say, because usually politicians are trying to go trends that is bringing more votes. And I heard that you got your work ethic from your mom. Right. Where did you get your bravery from? You touching, no, seriously, you touching the subjects that nobody is even afraid to think of, right? You go against the lobby, you're going against the big machine of pharmacy. Like, who gives you strength? Like, why are you so brave? Like, what makes you go?
I don't think it's a level of courage. I believe that you begin to have a clear reflection of your life. How do you say in one sentence, you were able to chase someone who was carrying an illegal gun, but you're not willing to stand up to someone who's selling bad pills.
Right,
It
right.
just doesn't go hand in hand.
Yeah,
You
or
know?
someone who's, you know, selling baloney.
Right. And so we were able to get the city to stop purchasing processed meat in the city. This is so huge.
Amazing.
You know, a type 1
I'm so impressed.
carcinogen, we were able to get them to do a 50% reduction in meat, which one of the greatest destruction to our climate is the overconsumption of meat in our country. We're looking to get those who invest in the burning of the Amazon, which is, those trees are the air filters of our globe. We say stop burning the Amazon to have cattle, raising cattle, chicken feed. We're saying stop doing that or stop doing business with our city.
You stood up against what was going on in Ecuador.
In Ecuador, just so many other. We have a great program at Bellevue Hospital with lifestyle medicine. We believe
His waiting list of 600 people.
Yes, we have 600 people waiting list. 200 people went through the program. So we have just begun.
That's good. You know, speaking of just beginning, we're going to eat a little bit more food. In the meantime, a mutual friend of yours who I've been introduced to is our special reporter, Rachel Atcheson, who we love and adore. And
everybody loves Rachel.
It's hard not to because she's
I hope she doesn't run for mayor. That's all.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but now that I've met you, we're all gonna get behind you. Where we do a thing called News You Can Use, and we'll be right back. Rachel, take it away.
Thanks so much, guys. We're out here today after the Borough President's interview. He talked about disease reversal, his own diabetes reversal with type 2, where he was at one stage blind in his left eye, tingling in his fingers and toes, and using a whole food plant-based diet was able to reverse that. That's what the Bellevue Clinic does. That's what he's talking about. So there's a book coming out in February of 2020. It's called Mastering Diabetes. Now, Mastering Diabetes, this book is written by Robbie and Cyrus. The online coaching platform that they have, also called Mastering Diabetes, is for anyone who has type 1 or type 2 diabetes. With type 2, you can reverse it completely. It is a food-related disease. With type 1, you can reduce the insulin that you're on. So be sure to check it out. Mastering Diabetes, February 2020. If you want to follow Robbie, he is Mindful Diabetic Robbie, and he's a great advocate in this space. So be sure to follow his Instagram stories every day. You'll see these wonderful fruits and vegetables that will actively reverse your diabetes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. One of the last things I want to talk about, the opioid crisis. How is the government working together with the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, to save lives and get people off opioids?
A betrayal. I believe opioid is going to line up with some of the historical betrayals we witnessed in our nation. Everything from the Tuskegee experiment to experiment on citizens in our subway system. I believe that's what the opioid crisis is going to reveal. This is a dark spot on America's history in the landscape of medicine. The overprescription of opioids, families have been destroyed. It's time for the pharmaceutical companies to be taxed with dealing with this overburden on destruction of lives of people. And then we have to have a wake-up call of what are the alternative methods of dealing with pain, of dealing with mental trauma. How do we explore those other areas? You know, we are as complicit, we being government, we are as complicit as the pharmaceutical industries because we allow them to run amok and incentivize the quick prescription instead of cycling people off. I have friends who have been on opioids for 2 and 3 years. And I stated that, listen, you had that knee surgery 2 years ago, you know, and so
Understandable.
We need to do more to deal with that crisis.
That's great. Well, we're happy you got your sight back, both inside and out. We're so happy that you came here today. We're going to let you enjoy the rest of your
And
meal.
hopefully we're going to continue highlight your progress and what initiatives you're bringing in, and
How
we're
can
going.
people find out about the initiative?
Yeah. What do you think you would need? Like what support?
What can we do to
like-
help you? Are there websites? Are there ways to contact?
Yes, yes. You could go online and just Google.
Like you did.
Eric Adams, Brooklyn Borough President, and you'll see a list of information, and you can get involved. And it's really getting involved in your own space, at your own speed, to move us closer and closer to a healthier city.
That's beautiful. And you're going to run for mayor?
2021, we're looking forward, and this is going to be one of the healthiest cities in the entire country. The first vegan mayor.
That'd be fantastic. We're ready for that.
Cool.
And it's such a pleasure to meet you. Real
Thank
pleasure.
you, thank you very much.
It's just so honored to have you here. We really had a great time today. We'd like you to, write in, review our episodes, watch the other episodes, of course, and rate what you saw today. We're so happy that Eric Adams came by today.
Send us questions for Borough President, and
And future mayor. And let's go Jets. Come on.
Yeah.
Please.
Let's help Jazz.
All right. Thank you, everyone.